Good morning, students. We have already done the matter in our surrounding. What is matter? What are the properties of the matter? We have discussed. Now we are going to discuss the types of the matter. The matter is of the three types, that are the solid, liquid and gaseous state. In the last video we have done the movement of the particles of the matter are continuously moving. In that we have to do that the particles of the matter are always little bit movement is there, that is called the Brownian movement. Now what is the Brownian movement? Brownian movement is the zigzag movement of the particles or irregular movement of the particles, that is called the Brownian movement. Why this is called the Brownian motion or Brownian movement? Because this was given by the Robert Brown, that is why from his name it is called the Brownian movement. Now we have to do the what is diffusion. In the last video we have done the diffusion. What is diffusion? The spontaneous intermixing of the particles of the matter on their own, where there no need of the energy, that is called the diffusion. We have taken the example of the what we have taken the example that time. We are taking the example ink and water that are continuously dissolving with each other. That is the best example of the diffusion. Another example of the diffusion is that is the fragrance of your perfumes. Okay, now next is a question, what are the factors affecting the rate of diffusion? First of all, that is the density. The rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to the square root of the density. According to the Gram's law, that is the rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to the square root of the density. How we can say it? Firstly, we have to know what is the density. Density क्या है? Density कोई भी चीज़ में कितना गाढ़ापन है, that is called the that substance density. Water's density is less as compared to the oil. This means diffusion process is faster in the water as compared to the oil. Next, the diffusion is depends upon the temperature. How it is depends upon the temperature. Rate of diffusion increases with increase in the temperature. When any substance temperature is rises, then what will happen? Then the particles of the matter starts moving very fastly. Then the striking between the particles increases. It means the kinetic energy is increases with increase in the temperature. Then they are intermixing with each other. Next is the pressure. Rate of diffusion is also depends upon the pressure. How it depends upon the pressure? With the increase in the pressure, the diffusion is also increases. Punctured tire at the higher pressure becomes flat than the punctured tire at the low pressure. If we are punctured tire at the higher pressure में क्या हो जाता है? वो flat हो जाता है, और low pressure में flat than the as compared to the low pressure. Now the next topic is the properties of the matter. Matter is of the three types, that is the solid, liquid and gases. Firstly, what is the solid state? Properties of the solid state. Solid states is having the definite shape and volume. The space between the particles is the minimum. Solid state, we are taking the example of the brick, that is having the definite shape, fixed volume. Then it means the space between the particles. brick के आपस में particles हैं, they are having the minimum space between them. That is why that is solid in nature. It means the force of attraction between the particles is the maximum. Means then movement of the particle is the minimum. Then they are the least compressible. Now what is the compressibility? Compressible क्या होता है कि हम किसी भी चीज़ के ऊपर कितना दबाव डाल सकते हैं. It means that is not we can't compress. We are taking the example of the brick. Then can you compress the brick? Never. Then the rate of diffusion is least. मीन्स कि आपने ब्रिक को रखा है तो वो डिफ्यूज़ थोड़ी हो जाएगी, जैसे आपने रखी है दैट विल बी सेम दैट लाइक. Now the next stage of that is a liquid state. Now what are the properties of the liquid? Liquids are having the fixed volume but no definite shape. If you are taking the 1 liter bottle, if you are keeping them in a bottle or in any container, in a pot, in a mug, then that liquid is taking the shape of that container. Now the space between the particles is the intermediate. Then the particles के बीच का जो space है वो क्या है, intermediate है, ना ज़्यादा कम है ना बहुत ज़्यादा है. It means the particles having the force of attraction between them. They are the less compressible and they are having the diffusing quality. They can diffuse is more than the solid. Now next is the gaseous state. Gases have no definite shape and volume. If in the whole space the container of the जैसा कंटेनर होगा वैसी ही क्या हो जाएगी, उतना ही वॉल्यूम होगा, उतनी वैसी ही क्या हो जाएगी, उसकी शेप हो जाएगी. इट मीन्स द स्पेस बिटवीन द पार्टिकल्स इज द मैक्सिमम. द मूवमेंट ऑफ द पार्टिकल इज द स्पेस फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन बिटवीन द पार्टिकल्स क्या होगा, यहाँ पे मिनिमम होगा. मूवमेंट ऑफ द पार्टिकल्स क्या होगा, मैक्सिमम होगा. एंड दे आर द मोस्ट कंप्रेसिबल. हाउ कैन यू गिव द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ दे आर द मोस्ट कंप्रेसिबल? यू आर यूजिंग द परफ्यूम और LPG गैस एट योर होम. क्या होता है फिर आप देखोगे कि वैसे तो उसमें क्या होता है, गैस होती है, पर आप जब उसको हिलाते हो तो वो क्या है, आपको ऐसे फील होता है कि इट इज़ द फील्ड विद द वाटर और एनी अदर लिक्विड. तो वो क्या है, लिक्विड क्या कर हो गई होती है, कंप्रेस करके हाई प्रेशर पे डाली होती है, इसलिए तुम्हें कैसी फील होती है, दैट इज़ इन द लिक्विड फॉर्म. सेम एज यू आर यूजिंग द परफ्यूम्स एंड द डिओड्रेंट्स, दे आर ऑल्सो द कंप्रेस एट द हाई प्रेशर. द रेट ऑफ डिफ्यूज़न क्या है, इनमें बहुत ज़्यादा होता है, किसके कंपैरिजन, सॉलिड और लिक्विड के कंपैरिजन. दैट इज़ वाई कि क्या है, आपको फाउल फूड की जो अच्छी जो खुशबू है एक जगह से दूसरी जगह पे क्या है, इजीली चले जाती है. चेंज ऑफ द स्टेट. When the solid is heated, it changes into the liquid. When a liquid is heated, it changes into the gas. When a gas is cooled, it changes into the liquid. When a liquid is cooled, it changes into the solid. Now we are using the some terms for it. Firstly, when a solid is heated, it changes into the liquid. जब हम किसी भी सॉलिड को क्या करते हैं, हीट करते हैं, दैट इज़ कन्वर्ट इनटू द लिक्विड. बट इन द कन्वर्जन ऑफ दिस सॉलिड टू लिक्विड देयर इज़ अ पॉइंट दैट इज़ कॉल्ड द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट. नाउ व्हाट इज़ द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट? दैट पॉइंट एट विच द सॉलिड सब्सटेंस इज चेंज इनटू द लिक्विड फॉर्म. जहाँ पे वो मेल्ट होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, दैट इज़ कॉल्ड द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट. Every solid having their particular melting point. If you're taking the example, that is the ice melting point is the 0 degree Celsius and the iron melting point is the 1535 degree Celsius. Why solid change into the liquid state on heating? अब यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन आते हैं कि जो सॉलिड्स हैं वो लिक्विड में क्यों कन्वर्ट हो जाते हैं. बिकॉज इन द क्रिस्टलाइन सॉलिड्स द काइनेटिक एनर्जी ऑफ द पार्टिकल्स क्या कर जाती है, इंक्रीज कर जाती है विद द इंक्रीज इन द टेम्परेचर. देन दे स्टार्ट द पार्टिकल्स स्टार्ट वाइब्रेटिंग एंड देयर इंटरमोलिकुलर फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन क्या होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, कम होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, जिसकी वजह से क्या करना स्टार्ट कर देते हैं, दैट पार्टिकल स्टार्ट मूविंग फ्रीली एंड द सॉलिड मेल्ट्स इनटू द लिक्विड फॉर्म. Next is the liquid heated to change into the gases. Liquid to gas, that is called the boiling. What is the boiling point? That point where any liquid starts going to the boil. For example, the boiling point of the water is the 100 degree Celsius. Ether का boiling point होता है 308 Kelvin. Acetone 329 Kelvin. Like that. Now the solutions are of the two types. First is the volatile solutions and the second one is the non-volatile liquids. What are the volatile liquids? Volatile liquids are that liquids which are evaporate easily. But the non-volatile liquids that are not evaporate easily, so they are having the high melting point. Example is the glycol, glycerine. ठीक है, ग्लिसरीन का एग्जाम्पल ले लो, दैट इज़ हैविंग द 488 केल्विन बॉइलिंग पॉइंट. Now, why liquid change into the gas on heating? Because the kinetic energy of the particles further increases, then they are moving very fastly. Force of attraction between the particles become less, then become freely to move the whole space available to them. That is why liquid change into the gaseous state when the liquid starts boiling. Now, effect of the addition of impurities on the boiling point. क्या किसी impurity को अगर हम ऐड कर दें तो क्या लिक्विड की बॉइलिंग पॉइंट को फ़र्क पड़ता है? You can take the example at your your home, you can see when you are adding sugar in the boiling water, then for the some time that is the comes to slow down of the boiling process. It means when you are adding the sugar in the that water, then that is the impurity, then the boiling point क्या होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, फिर उसका और ज़्यादा इंक्रीज होना स्टार्ट हो जाता है, प्रोसेस ऑफ द बॉइलिंग क्या हो जाता है, स्लो डाउन हो जाता है. अफेक्ट ऑफ द प्रेशर ऑन द बॉइलिंग पॉइंट ऑफ द लिक्विड. यहाँ पे क्या है, प्रेशर का क्या अफेक्ट पड़ता है किसी भी चीज़ को बॉयल होने में. बॉइलिंग पॉइंट ऑफ द लिक्विड क्या करता है, डिपेंड करता है प्रेशर के ऊपर. इफ़ द इट इंक्रीज द प्रेशर इज़ इंक्रीज एंड डिक्रीज इफ़ द प्रेशर इज़ डिक्रीज. अगर तो प्रेशर इंक्रीज़ कर रहा है, बॉइलिंग पॉइंट भी क्या करेगा, इंक्रीज़ करेगा. अगर प्रेशर डिक्रीज़ कर रहा है तो बॉइलिंग पॉइंट भी क्या करेगा, डिक्रीज़ करेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, water boils at the 373 Kelvin at the sea level where the pressure is the 1 atmosphere. On the mountain it boils at the lower temperature where the pressure is low. उसी तरह प्रेशर कुकर में खाना क्या है, इट बॉयल्स एट द हाई टेम्परेचर वेयर द प्रेशर इज़ हाई, हैज़ द कुकिंग इज़ डन फास्टर इन द प्रेशर कुकर. प्योर लिक्विड का क्या होता है, फिक्स्ड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट होता है. उसके बाद आ गया गैसेस टू लिक्विड चेंज. इट मीन्स कि अब तुम्हारे पास क्या था, सॉलिड से लिक्विड बना, लिक्विड से क्या बन गया, गैसेस बन गया. अब गैसेस फिर से किस में कन्वर्ट होगा, दैट इज़ द लिक्विड में कन्वर्ट होगा. दैट प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड द कंडेंसेशन. What is the condensation process of the changing a gas to a liquid by cooling? That is called the condensation. We can say the reverse of the boiling or vaporization is called the condensation. Why does the changes to liquid on cooling? When we are cooling the gases, then the particles of that substance come close to each other. Force of attraction will increases. Then they are come close together and being attached with each other, then to form a liquid. Next is the liquid to solid change. That is called the freezing. Liquid से क्या बन जाएगा, solid बनना है. अब means के that process changing a liquid into the solid by cooling is called the freezing, and the temperature at which a liquid freeze become a solid at the atmospheric pressure is called the freezing point. The process of freezing is also become called the solidification. Or on the other hand, freezing is also the reverse of the melting. Then why the liquid change into the solid state on cooling? When we cool the liquid, the particles of the energy क्या हो जाते हैं, comes close to each other. Then the liquid is cooled enough, the particles stops moving and vibrating about a fixed position. At this stage, the liquids freeze and become a solid. Effect of addition of the impurities on the freezing point. Impurities, when we are adding the impurities to a pure liquid, lower the freezing point. Water freeze at the 273 Kelvin. It means the 0 degree Celsius. But if we add the sodium chloride to add it, then the freezing point is the lower. That is why you are feeling the salty nature of the ice creams. Effect of pressure on the freezing point. At the freezing point, solid ice and the liquid are in the equilibrium. When pressure is applied to the system, some ice melts. Increase the pressure, decrease the freezing point of the ice. Pure substance having the fixed melting point, boiling point and the freezing points. Now the next is when the solid substance is directly converted into the gaseous form, that is called the sublimation. At your homes you all see that there is a using of the camphor, mushkpoor. सबने अपने घरों पे देखा होगा. When that is directly solid form to the liquid, not coming in the liquid form, directly converted into the gaseous form. Here the question is also there, why solid carbon dioxide is called the dry ice. That the solid carbon dioxide है, we are calling that the dry ice. Why? Because in the solid carbon dioxide when it starts sublime, तो क्या होता है, वो लिक्विड फॉर्म में नहीं कन्वर्ट होके किसी भी चीज़ को बैट नहीं करती. दैट इज़ डायरेक्टली कन्वर्टेड इनटू द गैसियस फॉर्म. दैट इज़ वाई द सॉलिड कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड इज कॉल्ड द ड्राई ice. The next topics we are going to do in the next video. Thank you. Have a nice day.